Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett is weighing in on the prospects of President Trump running for a third term. Barrett agreed that the 22nd Amendment was cut and dry in its prohibition of a president serving more than 2 terms. It comes as President Trump says he would like to run in 2028, while also saying that he probably won't. Joining us to discuss, Alex Gangitano, White House reporter here at The Hill. Hey, Alex, so tell us about the context of this discussion with Justice Barrett, and what did she say?
Yeah, that's right. The justice was on Fox News and was asked about the 22nd Amendment, which prevents a president from running for a third term, and if she views that as cut and dry. She said, yes, that has been in place since FDR, alluding to the fact that that became an add to the Constitution after Franklin Delano Roosevelt ran for a third and then had a 4th term when he died in office several years later. They decided to make this idea of only 2 terms for a president, which was a longstanding tradition since the years of President George Washington, add that to the Constitution as the 22nd Amendment. So she had suggested that she did think this was cut and dry. And of course, as you mentioned, this has come as the president and a lot of his allies have kind of floated the idea of him running for a third term.
You know, the president is often asked about this, and it seems like he likes answering the question, but it's often couched as kind of a joke. It's hard to say how serious it's being taken. When you talk to sources, though, at the White House, what's your gauge on how much time is being spent looking into this issue?
Yeah, I think that's right. The president, will say, I probably won't run, and then he'll laugh and say, but a lot of people want me to. And he points to his polling. He points to his supporters and how adamant they are that he should continue to be president. Now, when you look at what a lot of his allies are saying, I think that's the more interesting point. We know, top MAGA strategist Steve Bannon has said that he's going to run again and he's going to win again, and that this is, a once in a lifetime type of person to be president. So when, we've heard from allies saying we're looking into how to make this work, it becomes more of a serious issue. And the fact that the president himself hasn't totally couched the topic and said, let's move on, I'm trying to figure out who my successor is. Instead, he, as you said, kind of makes a joke out of it and says that people do want him to run again.
So when you have somebody like Steve Bannon who says he's looking into it, do we have any idea of what the avenue would be to get around the 22nd Amendment?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. One of the ones we've heard is having Congress pass a law that changes the amendment. And Congressman Andy Ogles of Tennessee has already introduced a bill that would make it that presidents can run for a third term. He said when he introduced that people shouldn't run for more than 3 terms, but that 3 could work. And he pointed to Trump in particular, not sugarcoating that this is for him in particular. And he said, this is somebody who has more work to do. He has great policies and should be given more time to do them.
Do we know if Republicans, rank and file, would support something like that? I mean, surely they're not going to get Democratic votes.
That's right. They'll definitely not get Democratic votes. I mean, when it comes to Republicans, especially looking at the Senate, that would be very, very tricky. Both chambers have right now, before the midterms, very tight margins in terms of the Republican control. But, the Senate, it was tricky for the president to get his cabinet officials through. He ultimately was able to get a lot of the more controversial ones. But, I think this would turn into a fight like that it would be very hard to imagine them being able to pull this off in Congress.
And before I let you go, Justice Barrett isn't the only Supreme Court justice weighing in on this issue. Justice Sotomayor was apparently on TV this morning talking about it. What did she have to say?
Yeah. That's right. She was just asked about it while making an appearance on The View. And Sotomayor says the Constitution is, in fact, settled law. But then she says, until somebody tries, this is something that no one has tried to challenge. And so she's kind of saying something a little bit different from Justice Barrett and saying, this is such an unprecedented situation. No one has tried to challenge it, perhaps leaving the door open to her saying, you never know what could happen in this situation. So I found that interesting. Both of them, though, acknowledging that, of course, this is settled law, a cut and dry situation.
settled law, but I imagine the speculation will continue. We will leave it at that. Alex Gangitano from the White House, thanks so much.
Thanks, Drew.